Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Latt, and you are listening to another episode of the Perilous Podcast. And joining me as always in the Bunker of Doom, it's the co-host, it's Angie Carrier.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Excellent. And everybody, you are listening to the George Street Shuffle by Kevin MacLeod. Get all your royalty-free music at Incompetech.com and Smooth Transition. There we go. We'll be listening to a little more of that on the outro. How you doing, Angie?
Doing pretty well. It's
Yeah,
hot outside again today, per usual.
Hot.
LA in the summer.
And if I sound a little more nasally than usual, which I know is tough to deal with, I'm getting over a cold. Angie's probably coming down with a cold,
Yep.
so we're just going to infect each other in this tiny little room. So a while ago we did the JFK assassination. Hang on, everybody, I'm taking a sip. And it was interesting because I think we touched on RFK.
I don't remember if it was during JFK or a different.
It might have been a different one.
Yeah.
And it was funny. A couple of people who listened to our podcast were like, "Dude, you should do RFK." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it."
Yeah.
So we had spoken this week, and we had already come up with the topics, but I asked you if there was something you wanted to talk about, and you're like, "Yeah, let's do RFK."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." I hadn't really read up on it in a long time, and I think I forgot a lot of stuff. And man, I forgot how really just very interesting it is.
Yeah.
And how blatant it is. Like with JFK, I think you can make an argument, even though I wouldn't believe you, that Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone nut.
Right.
But with Robert Kennedy's assassination at the Ambassador Hotel, what was it, June 4, 19...
Are we doing it like...
What?
Oh, today is almost an anniversary.
Shit. Wow.
Right? Today's June 3rd.
Well, way to make things creepy.
Yeah.
But it was June 4, I think, 1960...
June 5th, 1968.
1968.
Yeah.
So, while I think, again, with JFK, you could say, no, Lee Harvey Oswald was a nut, which I wouldn't believe. And if you're curious about that, you can go listen to our JFK assassination podcast. But with RFK, the only way you can walk away from that going, it was Sirhan, is if all you do is watch a National Geographic special that ignores a lot of the contradictory stuff and read the Wikipedia article, which is so bad.
I actually didn't read that when I was going through it.
It is almost an insult to people's intelligence.
Really?
Yeah. So, we can't really talk about RFK without getting into something called MKULTRA.
Yeah.
Which you and I were discussing off air.
Yeah.
And more specifically, the precursor to MKUltra, which was Project Artichoke. Which while MKUltra, and here's the thing, folks, if you're listening to this going, conspiracies, this is all documented.
Yeah.
Artichoke and Ultra and Delta and Monarch, these are all documented, admitted programs. Now, the success or lack thereof or extent of these projects is not necessarily documented, but needless to say, if the people that come up with something like Project Artichoke tell you it didn't work so we stopped doing it, they're lying. So Project Artichoke, and then I'll shut up and let you talk.
No.
But Project Artichoke specifically was about, amongst other things, creating a Manchurian candidate. Mind control. Can you take someone and through hypnosis and drugs and torture, turn them into an assassin that doesn't know they're killing somebody? And the answer to that is, if you ask the government, they say no, but you absolutely can.
Yeah, I mean, even just repressed memories in general as a psychological thing. Like people, they do things and then they can block it out. Drugs are not like it's
trauma. Any trauma. People who have a bad car accident will not remember things about the car accident.
Have you watched The Keepers on Netflix about the nun who was murdered?
No, it's on my list.
So good. Well, but I mean, this is like not spoiling anything. There's a woman who talks about like the systemic rape and abuse by the priests, and she didn't have the memories until 94. So like almost 30 years. About 30 years after it happened. It was all repressed, and it all came flooding back. She had no memory of it even when she would walk out of the room. That shit happens. Like,
well, and I was going to watch that, but then something really important happened, which was a new season of Supernatural showed up on Netflix. So
yeah, I mean, you gotta watch Dean and or whatever.
Best show on TV.
Dean and
Gilmore. Sam.
Dean and Sam.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
He was the what Jared Padalecki's Dean on Gilmore Girls, so I got confused.
Oh, I thought you said Dean and Gomer. I'm like, how dare you? All right, so just a quick aside, Supernatural, best show on TV. If it wasn't on the CW, it would get a lot more respect going into 13 years. I don't want to hear any haters. It's a fucking amazing show. Okay. Back to the topic.
Yeah.
So and also, I'm going to put a link to this on our Podbean page. I can't do it on iTunes, but if you're listening to this and go to our Podbean page, you can go to jonathanlatt.com, which will link you directly to Podbean, to prove, and it's terrifying to watch, to prove that Project Artichoke is possible, and not just with torture and drugs, but simply with hypnosis. Have you ever heard of a guy named Darren Brown?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's a pretty common name.
True.
But
Darren Brown is a English mentalist. So he's a hypnotist, mentalist. He's a guy that can get inside your head. There is an episode of his show called The Assassin, where he finds a guy and over the course of 3 months is able to program him to murder Stephen Fry and not remember anything. They use the girl in the polka dot dress as a trigger. They use a cell phone ring as a trigger.
Oh my God.
So Stephen Fry is the
British actor? Yeah.
It culminates in this talk Stephen Fry is giving. And they give Stephen Fry this coat with like blood packs on it. So this guy that Darren Brown has been working with for 3 months goes to this show and he doesn't know he's being filmed. It's all hidden cameras. And they give him so they give him a gun. They say, this is a loaded gun. Do not touch this, but you have to give this to Darren after the show because you're meeting Darren, and I can't be here like one of the assistants.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the triggering. So he's watching the show. The girl in the polka dot dress, which we will get to in a second, comes in, touches him, says something. This is one of the triggers to put him in a trance state. And you can see him go into the trance. It's not fake. Oh. You can see him go into the trance. Then a couple of seconds later, maybe a minute later, her cell phone rings. It's the second trigger.
Oh, jeez.
And he's just sitting there watching Stephen Fry talk. And then just as casual as can be, opens up the gun case, takes out the gun, chambers the round, fake round.
Yeah.
And fires 3 times at Stephen Fry. The blood explodes. Stephen Fry falls to the ground. He sits back down like nothing happened. The girl next to him takes the gun, puts it under her coat. He's in this trance state. Darren Brown comes on stage, tells the crowd what's going on. This guy is just off in La La Land, right? Steve Brown brings him out of his trance as he's backing off on stage. Stephen Fry continues his talk like nothing happened. This guy has no idea. When they show him the video of what he did, this look of embarrassment, shame, terror, he's so confused. And he can't remember doing it. And the only reason he can now remember doing this is because Darren Brown walks him through it under the triggers and gets him to remember. So getting back to, so if you don't believe this can be done, and again, he didn't do it overnight. It took him 3 months, and he did it very carefully. So if you don't think this can be done, watch that episode. And I'll put a link to the YouTube on the Podbean site because it's terrifying.
Yeah, that is terrifying.
It's terrifying. And so Sirhan, who was a Palestinian immigrant,
24
years old, supposedly shoots Robert F. Kennedy after he wins the California primary.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it was a different time back then. California was a red state.
Really?
Oh, yeah. California didn't start going, but California voted for George H.W. Bush.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we used to be, different. So anyway, so Sirhan supposedly shoots Robert F. Kennedy. You know what? I'll shut up. Tell me what you're thinking, and because I talk too much. You're the co-host, so you should talk.
No. Well, so to go from there, like the theory. Well, so I guess maybe even just to back up, that Robert F. Kennedy was considered such like an inspiring politician. He kind of took over after his brother was shot and killed 5 years prior, I suppose. Yeah, 5 years before. So and apparently too, there's like the theory that he is the reason JFK was good in a lot of ways, like that he was the inspiring factor and he never wanted to be in the spotlight, but kind of had to take over because the assassination obviously stopped JFK's work. So a lot of people consider that Robert F. Kennedy would have been a really big force in changing America and the world for the good. So he did a lot of things that pissed a lot of people off also in doing that, as any good politician would do. So there's theories that he pissed off the mafia. Jimmy Hoffa, right? Really hated him.
Yeah.
He was one of his big platforms was like economic, like I can't think of the word, like not conspiracy, like when people were doing fraud and all that stuff, and so that he was going after that. He
well, and the mob hated him because they used the mob to get John elected, and then they turned on him.
Yeah, and then what they say is the reason that he got killed that night was because he supported Israel.
Yeah, and
Sirhan obviously did not, and wanted to take him out for that, and that's the party line, right? That they always say that's what he did. He acted alone, even though you can hear 8 gunshots allegedly on.
Well, now they say you can hear 12.
12.
Now, but here's the thing. I mean, he had a .22 pistol, which held 8 rounds.
Oh yeah.
So anything over 8, that's weird. Now the thing with Sirhan, I go back to the Lee Harvey Oswald thing, which is, they found notebooks of Sirhan, Kennedy must die, must kill Kennedy. So with Lee Harvey Oswald, again, my thing is, here's this guy who planned on this, and this is going to be his moment, and what does he do when he gets caught?
Says he didn't do it.
Says he didn't do it, and he's a patsy.
Yeah, and Sirhan still says he doesn't even remember doing it.
And here's the weird thing. If you go on YouTube, you can watch some of his parole hearings. Now, they're begging him in these parole hearings to have remorse and admit what he did and feel bad about it. This is a guy who knows he would probably get, at this stage in his life, would probably get parole if he just lied. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say he is lying. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he does remember doing it.
Yeah.
So again, he would have been a hero to Palestine, to the Palestinians, but he doesn't take responsibility for it. He could probably get out on parole if he would just go, I do remember it. Yes, I was obsessed at the time. I am so sorry and remorseful, and it was terrible. And I live every day in regret. And the only reason I never admitted it before is because I was never even able to admit to myself what a terrible thing I had done. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. Every time he's in a fucking parole hearing, all he does is go, I wish I could remember. I cannot remember. The only reason to say that is because you're telling the fucking truth.
Right.
It's insane.
And he's still in prison as of
he's still
now.
in prison. Yeah, he's got life in prison. Mm-hmm. So now we get to the girl in the polka dot dress, which I know you love.
Yeah.
So Sirhan had been seen around town with a woman in a polka dot dress. Now the polka dot dress is very important because this woman either only had one dress, or it was
super into polka dots,
right? Or it was very important that when around Sirhan, she wore the polka dot dress because the polka dot dress was the trigger to keep him in a semi-hypnotic state and make him very malleable and pliable. And, they went to a gun range. They were both seen at a gun range, and there's big signs of the gun range. No rapid firing, shoot at your own target. And what does he do? Rapid fires and shoots at everybody else's target. Why? Because it's memorable. You remember him. And the girl in the polka dot dress was also very memorable. The night of the assassination, we have Sandra Serrano, who was 18 or 20 at the time, who was working on the Kennedy campaign, who saw the girl in the polka dot dress with another guy that she said was Latino. I don't think he was. Come out of the ballroom saying, we
shot him. Yeah, we killed him.
We have at least 8 or 9 other witnesses, including an elderly couple, who also said the same thing. And, the Wikipedia page is terrible because it says Sandra Serrano later retracted.
Yeah.
Which, yes and no. So there was a guy, I believe it was, and I apologize if I got his first name wrong, but he was Mike Hernandez, who was an LAPD detective, a retired LAPD detective who came back in to interrogate Sandra Serrano, who was a witness, and very much linked to the CIA. So a guy who was retired comes back from overseas, working for the CIA to interrogate this witness. And did you hear the tapes?
No, I didn't listen to
Okay,
tapes.
so there are these interrogation tapes. And by the way, the LAPD destroyed so much fucking evidence of this, but part of his interrogation survived. And it didn't come out until maybe about 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine she's 18 or 20 years old. She's in this room with this hardened, big, scary guy. And when you listen to this tape, he's just browbeating her and haranguing her and doing basically an interrogation that is done purposely for her to question herself.
Oh yeah.
And won't let her leave. She probably doesn't know her rights, that she can just walk out. And so after a while, she questions herself. And when you hear this tape, you go, Jesus Christ. Of course she did. She was terrified of this guy. And, Officer Sharaga, I apologize, I have his name. I apologize. Paul Sharaga, who was an LAPD beat cop at the time when he heard about the shooting, goes straight to the Ambassador Hotel. He's the one that runs into this elderly couple who are shocked that say they ran across this girl in a polka dot dress and says, we shot him. Puts out an APB. 8 minutes later, they cancel the APB. He's told by his higher-ups, no, we have the gunman in custody. He files his reports. He goes in a couple days later. His reports have been altered. And there's this other report of the interview he did with these two detectives. An interview he never gave. He swears he never gave.
That's so weird.
And he kept his original report, which you usually don't do, but I think he knew there's something squirrely going on here. And it completely contradicts everything. That they got rid of photographs. They got rid of these door jambs that had extra bullet holes in them, and they said they got rid of them because they couldn't fit in a file cabinet. It's insane. The L.A. coroner, Thomas Noguchi, I know his last name is Noguchi, was told, do not share your findings with the public. And he said, I can't do that. I have to share. So he shares them. They then press to they fire him. And then not only do they fire him, they're putting stuff in the paper that he was ranting about how he hoped a plane would crash into the Ambassador Hotel and kill Robert F. Kennedy, all this stuff. Noguchi sues. Not only does he get reinstated, they have to give him all his back pay. That's how thin
their
LAPD's
claims were.
Case was. This whole thing, there is no doubt in my mind that this was a conspiracy to kill Robert F. Kennedy.
Absolutely.
And, they say Sirhan was never more than some will go 4 feet, some will go 1.5 feet. But the killing blow, but Robert F. Kennedy was shot from behind with powder marks on his body. It's 2 inches, 3 inches from his body and from behind.
Right.
Now I can see where Robert Kennedy turns and shows his right side to Sirhan. He could shoot him from behind, but not 2-3 inches away. Yeah. So again, I apologize. I'll shut the fuck up.
No, I mean that's all great information. And we need to cover it. Yeah, there's people who are like talk about the girl in the polka dot dress, and they're like, "Oh, why would she wear something so memorable if she did something so big?" And I was like, "That's the point. Like that's what they're saying is the point. Like she wore the blue polka dot dress because that was the trigger. Yeah. If she was a part of this entire program, the entire thing is so much of a parallel to JFK too. Like there's like crazy ballistics evidence that doesn't really make sense, which is also a thing in the JFK assassination. It's just it all feels tied together, and there's like a big indication that the CIA was involved also. But I actually don't know that I came to a conclusion about like why they really wanted him gone.
Right. I will say this. So let's just walk people through the girl in the polka dot dress. Yeah. So, because I have an alternate theory. Yeah.
I like the alternate theory.
I know. Is that so we have this girl in the polka dot dress, and let's say the CIA did this. Yeah. I actually don't think they did.
Really?
Yeah. I think they wouldn't have minded.
Right.
Because look at JFK. Mm-hmm. So as far as conspiracies go, one of the reasons it's so hard to tell what happened is because that was an American operation, and they were tight.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say the girl in the polka dot dress works for the CIA,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been grooming Sirhan Sirhan.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting in a lot of the news reports, they try the 3-name trick.
Oh, yeah.
Sirhan, Bashira, Sirhan, and it doesn't work.
No.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange. That's just an aside. So let's say she works for the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
She is part of Project Artichoke. She's a military intelligence person.
Yeah.
She has groomed Sirhan Sirhan to be their, whether, again, and I don't think he was the assassin. I think he was the distraction for the guy who was the real assassin to pop.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But, so she works for the CIA. They want to kill Robert Kennedy, just like they killed John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And they groom Sirhan Sirhan. They get him all tranced up. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And yet, when they're leaving the Ambassador Hotel, she makes a point of saying to random people, giddily, we did it. We shot him. We did it. No fucking way is a trained CIA operative doing that.
That's one thing I was going to bring up. Like, that's a little odd.
So now we have to decide, well, maybe this was some rogue civilian group. They didn't have the method or technology, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
But we talk a lot about what the Americans were doing in terms of Project Artichoke, MKUltra, MK Delta, all that stuff. And Artichoke was before Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the Americans were doing, the Russians were doing.
Right.
And not only were the Russians doing it, they were pouring way more money into things like psychic warfare and, remote viewing and mind control and all this like quasi even occult stuff that the Americans just laughed at. And the fucking Russians did it first. Mm-hmm. They spent more money on it. They had sleeper agents in America. So what if the CIA didn't kill Robert F. Kennedy? What if the Russians did?
Everything comes back to Russia lately.
I know. And I felt weird about bringing it up right now. But think about it. It's the Cold War.
Yeah.
JFK is dead.
Yep.
America's in a state of upheaval.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Right.
Even 5 years later.
Yeah.
Camelot is over. People are distrusting the government.
Yeah.
Vietnam is ramping up more than ever.
Yeah.
The Cold War is raging. If Robert Kennedy becomes president, we'd probably pull out of Vietnam. The Russians like Vietnam. The Russians like Vietnam. War is money, So, and there's other reasons. Again, the Middle East. The Russians the USSR did lots of deals with Middle Eastern leaders. They weren't big fans of the Jews. This was back before Russia sort of all of a sudden became a Christian country again. In communism, so to destabilize and make sure America doesn't pull out of Vietnam, and to sow discontent and confusion and chaos. So it's a KGB operative who has trained and groomed Sirhan Sirhan. So if it's the Russians, that then makes sense for her to be like, we did it. We shot JFK. It just sows more confusion and makes it so fucked up. And the CIA, they're not covering up that they killed Kennedy.
Right.
Or Robert Kennedy. They're covering up that the Russians successfully assassinated a presidential candidate on American soil.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, they got involved pretty quickly if they sent in somebody from overseas to stop the witness from saying that she saw them and like. Yeah.
I mean, the CIA moved heaven and earth to cover this thing up.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this?
Mine.
Yeah.
For a minute, I was like, thought you were like ending it. Like, tell us your thoughts.
No. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I do think that Sirhan Sirhan. I did not think that he was the one responsible for it, but I didn't think about who would have actually been, because the CIA did make sense if it was kind of like tied to JFK. But it's true, like her running out and yelling about that, like being so excited, like unless the only thing I thought was like almost like. Maybe she was like a little bit in a trance of state and like that broke her out of it, and she was like, holy shit, like because I don't know that they said like giddy or the tone of her voice, like was she like, oh my god, we just killed him, but no, she was happy about it. So yeah, I don't know, like the only thing I could think was that she was broken out of it and was like, fuck, I can't believe that we did that. Yeah, so I definitely think that it was not Sirhan. Definitely something he wasn't a part of an MKUltra program. Maybe it was just that he's just like blacked out of it too. But I like the idea of an MKUltra type program.
Well, yeah, when we say MKUltra, and I think you mean the same thing,
yeah.
which is just sort of a Manchurian candidate program, and you know the Russians had a different name for it, of course.
Yeah.
And he did shoot people. We know Sirhan shot people in the pantry.
Yeah.
He just didn't shoot Kennedy.
Right.
You know, because the manager of the hotel, I think it was the manager of the hotel, wrestled Sirhan.
Yeah.
And so the gun's just going off.
Yeah.
Randomly, and that's where the ballistics get all kooky and crazy.
Yeah.
But think about it. It's like it's an old magician's trick. You know, if I'm showing you my right hand and I'm making flurries with it, you don't see my left hand going into my pocket and taking out the scarf or the card or whatever. So everybody's looking at Sirhan, and nobody sees the guy come up behind Kennedy and pop. And so there was a...
Did you see the security guard? That was, yeah. That, I actually don't know that I knew about that until I was researching again for this, because he had, like, there's all kinds of stuff where he was like, no way I would have killed Kennedy. I was carrying a 38 and he got killed with a 22, but it was found out that he did have a 38 that he sold, and he said he sold it 3 months before, but it was 20. Oh yeah, he sold a 22. That's right. He had a 22 that he sold, he said 3 months before, and they went to the guy who had it, and he had a receipt that was from 3 months after, 4 months after. So he like clearly lied, but then in the end he took a lie detector and they said he passed with flying colors, which if he was involved, of course, like you can train yourself to take a fucking lie. That's why lie detector tests are not admissible in court.
Yeah.
I think I could pass a lie detector test. Yeah. My heart rate's like low and my blood pressure is like low. I think I can like keep it even.
Well, and there's other tricks you can do. You can clench your butt. You can seriously
hold on to your butts, Jeff
Goldblum. Clench that culo.
Yeah,
and you'll be fine. Put a thumbtack under your thigh. The thing about it is not necessarily even about heart rate. It's about the baseline. So if the baseline's erratic when you're telling the truth, like what's your name?
Yeah.
You know, what day were you born? That's the baseline they have to go with. So
yeah, that's fair. So get really nervous about your name and the time you were born.
But it's also, it's tough. Lie detectors are iffy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just so much cover up between the LAPD, the FBI, the CIA. And as far as I read, the FBI actually seemed to be the odd man out on this one, where they were really like trying to figure out what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And everybody else is running circles around them going, you know. But with the girl in the polka dot dress, to me, that just screams KGB operative.
Yeah.
It just does. And it's perfect. I mean, think about everything that happened. JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King Jr., you know.
MLK was before RFK, right? Because he gave a speech like the night.
Right.
Yeah.
But the you know, and I don't think the KGB was involved in JFK or MLK.
Yeah.
But
so many Ks.
A lot of Ks. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I think there is absolutely no doubt that Sirhan, you know, he's either been lying all this time, which I don't see a reason why. There's no reason. There's no reason.
No.
Or he's, again, a dupe and a patsy, and through a Project Artichoke type mind control thing. And, you know, again, everybody go watch the Darren Brown episode called The Assassin. And I'll, again, link on the podcast page. Because you just go, holy shit, because it's not fake.
Right.
You know. And but again, did the CIA kill Kennedy? I actually think it was the KGB.
That's interesting. I think it definitely.
Bring your aim, Andy.
Sorry. I was thinking about KGB and Alias, the show.
Oh, that was a good show.
Yeah, it really was. Sadly, only 3 seasons.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I can see it being the KGB.
So that's my thing. All right, we are coming up on the half hour. We are going to be. I don't know. I got a cold, people. I'm not thinking. So anyway, everybody, what do you think? Sirhan, is he lying Was it the CIA? Was it the KGB? Is the girl in the polka dot dress real? Who knows? I believe girl in the polka dot dress is very real.
Agreed.
And I think it makes more sense that for once the CIA didn't kill a Kennedy, but that they were covering up so that they could keep out of the press that the KGB was able to pull off the assassination of a presidential candidate on American soil.
We don't want those Russians to get away with anything.
No. Well,
including
not
swinging an
now,
election.
Now, evidently, it's fine. But listen, everybody, go to jonathanlatt.com, all the shit you don't care about in one convenient location. And this has been another episode of the Perilous Podcast. You're listening to Kevin MacLeod, George Street Shuffle. And my co-host, as always, has been Angie Carrier. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
as always.
And we'll be back. Actually, we're going to once a week.
Woo!
Yeah, so we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. So thanks for coming by, everybody. Thanks, Angie.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll talk to you all later.